Stuart, is it all about seeing a positive reaction from your players?
Yeah, I think, well, one, we need to see a positive reaction, and you get to that stage of obviously planning for the next game and making sure that you're prepared for the next game. But what you also have to understand is what your shortcomings were. I'm huge on that, not festered on what was such a bad result and bad performance, but you have to understand why. There's a reason why. One of the reasons can always be that there's an opposition, that there's another team, and they may play well on the day, they may do something spectacular to score a goal and to beat you. That wasn't the case on Saturday. We were the architects of our own downfalls. A throw in for us, a corner against, and a punt up the park is the 3 goals that we concede. They're avoidable, so we have to understand what we have to do better, but not just in the 3 goals, what we have to do better in general as a team as to how we defend, and really important to try and start the game to pose a threat, and what you do in the attack. And when you've got possession of the ball, and it's safe to say I wasn't happy with any of that at the weekend. Of course that's magnified and you start to focus on 3 goals, but we have to understand how we can be better in a game of football, and how we have been better in a game of football. And it's really easy for me to evidence that to the players. I always try and produce evidence, and it's going to be very easy for me to show them that, and to evidence what we lacked and what will make us a better team and what will make us more competitive in a game of football.
In your post-match interview, you were fairly critical of the players. I've not seen you very critical of the players. By the time you were here, you just feel you reached a point where you had to get that message out.
In what way was I critical of the players?
Well, you say they didn't deliver.
Yeah, which is obvious. I don't think you need to be a football person. I don't think.
Said they were spooked.
Yeah, and that's absolutely a thing. I will always have constructive criticism of the players. I think everybody will know me well enough by this point, sitting here in front of you all, that I take full responsibility. I said that. But again, I always talk about reasonable expectations. If you have evidence to me before that you can perform better and you can make better decisions and you can play better, then that's reasonable expectation. I expect that to be better than what it was on Saturday. The first place it always starts with myself. The first person I'll always challenge is myself, and I still sit here angry. You move on and you start to think about what comes next, but there's no doubt that I've learned through the years and through the games that I've been fortunate to manage a football club, that there is emotion, there is anger, there is disappointment, and you know what, I'm not going to sit here and shield that. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to people that I'm incredibly happy after the game at the weekend, because I believe in creating an environment where you call the home truths, you tell people where they've come up short, and it's our job to move on from that, and it's our job to find a solution from it. So that's the emotional football. That's one of the things that comes with the territory. I believe that we've got a group that are big enough and ugly enough to accept that criticism, that critique. But you know something, we do that when we win as well. It's important to say that as well, that I don't sit there comfortable at any point. I don't sit there celebrating the wins and the performances we've had to this point. I think it's always an understanding of how to become better, and how to show resilience when the chips are down and when you've had a bad result. But what I do strip it back to is, and try and remind the players, is that we sit in a position where we're 5th in the league at this point. I think sometimes we can become over emotional, myself very much included, but the league is so tight, and we have to remind ourselves that we need to kind of wake from our slumber. We need to wake from the last 2 games and the last 2 performances, and we have to make sure that we start picking up points again. I always believe that walking before you can run. We have to walk first before we run, so we have to eradicate the errors. We have to eradicate the silly 5 goals, I believe, that we've lost in the last 2 games, and that will give us a footing and a standing to go and try and be more competitive and to try and pick up your next result.
What are you expecting from Dundee?
I just expect a really difficult game. Seen them a few times this season. I think they're a good side. They're a team like us that I think there's a lot of players that done well last season for them, and they've had to change quite a few pieces in their setup and 1 or 2 personnel. I think they always carry a threat at the front end of the pitch. Played against them here not so long ago, really. Thought they defended exceptionally well that day as well. So the one thing I know is whoever you play against in this league, wherever you play against them, it's going to be a really difficult game. But you know, it's I suppose it's one of the games that we've got in hand, a number of teams in the league, and we have to try and maximise that opportunity. But understanding how difficult it's going to be, it's certainly not going to be an easier game than it was at the weekend or the week before when we lost against Ross County. It's going to be a tough game. But I think where I need to start is that we need to show a better version of ourselves before we can start talking too much about the opposition. I need to concentrate on that element.
You talk about posing a threat. It was obviously a while before you'd managed to do that on Saturday as well. Was that just a breakdown of the plan? Is it a game-to-game thing when you're missing creative players that are out, that you have to find different ways as well?
Yeah, in a number of aspects, how we pass the ball, how we receive the ball, how we select an option when we're in the middle third of the pitch. Do we go back to our centre backs or do we elect to go into the forward areas? And then a huge thing for me, and again this will be evidence to the players. The answer to every solution is to run. Very, very simply, that we will create chances, we will create opportunities if we show some sort of intensity to run towards the opposition goal. Now I know that sounds very, very kind of layman in how I'm describing that, but if we show better intensity and we show a greater willingness to make movements off the ball, then we'll start to create chances. We've looked through a number of different stats that you can get your hands on pretty easily in the league, and when we get into that final third, we're one of the teams that create some of the best quality chances in the division. We have to do that more readily. We have to have a greater willingness to pass the ball forward and run forward. Really simply. Now I know there's several ways that I'll look at that and I'll break that down very much more specific to the players, but I think that was something that was lacking in our performance at the weekend.
Is it fair to say you still try to find a way to get the best out of Motherwell, just with the service he's getting? Is it about that? How you link him up?
But I think anybody can see at the weekend that, and potentially the week before, that service lacks, or it has lacked in the last two games. It wasn't a question that was posed before that. So again, I take that on board. I understand that he can help himself, as can other strikers and other forward players at times by their movement. But of course, that needs to be joined up by the type of service and the type of imagination that we show when we're trying to play into the forward areas. And so of course he's in a settling in period. One of the big stories that we had at this football club, and possibly still lean on from time to time, was Theo Bair wasn't quite firing on all cylinders this time a year ago. Everyone celebrates how good a season he had last year, which is accurate, but I think he probably had 2 goals to this stage, and wasn't a permanent fixture in our team to this point, and then he found his feet. And I still believe that Apostolos, without linking the two too much, but I'm talking about 2 strikers, I think he'll find his feet at this level. I believe he'll find his feet for this football club, but we need to help him along the way as well with the type of service and the type of decision making that we have, especially leaning towards that forward area.
It's going up to Dens Park, Stuart, maybe the challenge that the players need. It's going to be a cold Wednesday night, it's going to require the players to step up, and Dens Park is not the easiest place for the players to go.
Yeah, I said it after the game. It doesn't matter what way I look at it. Do you think you'll be better off for a week's training? Do you think you'll be better off for a game coming really, really quickly? The bottom line is we've got a really difficult task and a really difficult challenge against Dundee at Dens Park. Irrespective of what time of the year it is, whether it's a cold night or it's a mild night, that side, it doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. I think what we have to do is, as I say, is understand where we come up short and make sure that we have a real intent in trying to attack the game, and attack it with the vision of trying to win it. Not just turning up there to try and avoid an error, trying to tiptoe through a game. I actually feel that we probably need to take our bat out and have a swing, and that's my job again, to make sure that the players are braced for that and prepared for it, and prepared to attack it in that sense. I don't feel that we attacked our game plan on Saturday, so that always falls with the manager, that always falls with me, to make sure that we select the players that are going to do that, and that we have them in the mind frame that they're going to do exactly that.
Do you feel that there's much between the two sides when you look at the last previous results, a win for each and 3 draws?
I don't think there's anything between any of the teams in this league, to be honest with you. Obviously, we can start to break that down to. We understand that Celtic have a healthy lead in the table, but again, you have a look at the league table and look at the points and have a look at the sides that are in the mix. It's incredibly close, but for me, I don't feel that it's been close enough for us the last 2 games. So it's about addressing that. It's about trying to show a better performance. But again, I think in general, in any given day, there isn't a great deal between a lot of the sides, and I envisage that's how it will be again on Wednesday, but it won't be close if we perform the way we have done in certain stages of the last 2 games. So just trying to pick ourselves up, try to put ourselves in a position where we actually believe that we sit 5th in the league for a reason, that we've had a reasonably good start to the season, and draw on all the positive factors, as well as start to eradicate the negativity of what's been 5 goals conceded in the last 2 games.
Stuart, you said there that you want the players to have a swing up at Dennis Park. Does that just mean doing the roles better, or does it involve changes in your shape, or how would that work?
Listen, we played with 3 different shapes on Saturday to try and find a solution and try and find an answer. People will have, what's the answer to this all the time? You play with a back 3 and somebody wants you to play with a back 4. You're losing a game of football when you've got a back 4. Somebody wants you to play with a back 3. Again, I'm long enough in the tooth to understand that these questions get asked, and I ask myself those questions. Everyone will see that predominantly we have always played with a back 3. That varies between playing with 2 strikers, that varies between playing with 1 off, it varies with playing with 2 attackers behind the main striker. We've played a number of different ways, and a lot of the time that's been in accordance to what we have available, and who's fit enough to go and play, who's finding himself in decent form. So we need to come up with a solution. I'm quite clearly not going to sit here and tell you what that solution is going to be at this point, but we have to get a reaction, and it's not always down to a shape. It's, as I say, there's elements in that game, irrespective of what system we played at the weekend, that we can absolutely do better, and we would perform better if we can get specifics of that right.
Any squad news?
No changes from the weekend. Don't envisage anyone coming back into the group that we had at the weekend, other than Jair Tavares, who obviously couldn't play against Hibs.